welcome to the Hail to the King podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Magnus.
And today we're going to do a character spotlight on Pennywise from It.
Yeah. So we decided to kind of break these up into smaller episodes where we can do spotlights. That way we don't overwhelm you with a 2-hour episode. So, in terms of Pennywise, his introduction actually comes later in the story. His origin, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
His origin comes a little later in the story, during it's a little smokehouse.
Yeah, it's a little smoke hut.
Smoke hut.
So the idea comes from Ben Hanscom. He reads in just a book that he found at the library that, certain Native American tribes, when they were trying to make some big decision whether to move on to another land or whatnot, they would do a little smoke hut ceremony.
Light a fire in pretty much a little hut with just a little vent on the top, and they just kind of hallucinate from oxygen deprivation to... They don't burn anything weird, do they?
No, they didn't burn anything weird. They did put like green, green wood
lots of green stuff,
just to get lots of smoke. That's kind of hallucinated.
Kind of reminds me. I used to do barbecues, and during the winter time at my brother-in-law's house, we'd do it out in his garage, and we just have the door of the garage cracked a couple feet, and it got a little smoky in there, but enough to let out the air.
Yeah.
And we also had a door open, but yeah, kind of reminded me of that, and it was a good time. It was probably a good time because of the oxygen deprivation.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah, so he kind of comes crashing to Earth. Bill and Mike.
Nope. Mike and Richie are the ones who
see it.
Who actually have the vision together. They're the last guys
in the hut. And it's like prehistoric kind of dinosaur times, right?
Yeah. It's prehistoric. There's like when they go into the vision, they see that there is absolutely no buildings, nothing, and the little river or whatnot, the canal running through Derry is huge at this time, and they see in the sky, the way one of them describes it is an alien ship, the way the other one describes it is like
an asteroid
or meteor. But they say really it's neither of those. That's just the only way their minds could comprehend something they've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And that
so it comes crashing down.
Yeah, that is it. He comes crashing down in Derry, which is why
he's been a presence.
Oh yeah.
Ever since before man, probably. I don't know if he preyed on the dinosaurs.
Of course he did. They were delicious. Just no fears to salt the meat.
But yeah, and then kind of now jumping forward to, let's say, was it like 1800s? All the photo album stuff that they go through. It's just like not present day Derry, but like historical Derry, I guess we should say. There's like photographs and drawings of the clown in various comic drawings, right?
Yeah.
And so he's kind of been around for a while, and the residents have known that he's there, whether or not they really acknowledge the implication of a clown figure in all of the, these old photographs and, political cartoons, that kind of stuff. So
it might just be for
like a subconscious, he's just his presence is there. In the new movie, there's this scene where somebody comes in, it's Henry Bowers. He comes into the room to talk to his dad, and the TV's on. And on the TV, it's like a kids show. And there's like this woman talking to like a room full of kids and getting them all excited about something. And then all of a sudden, they're like, come play in the sewers. The sewers are a great place to play. It's fun. And it's just kind of this weird like background thing that you don't even think about. And
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny thinking about all the different things that he's been, just kind of establishing his presence and his influence, on this kids show, trying to get kids to go into the sewers, that kind of thing. So the movie did a couple cool things with that, but yeah.
But yeah, so he's been a part of Derry. In fact, at one point in the book, it's I don't know if I'd say it's written out. I believe it is heavily implied or whatnot that he kind of started bringing people to Derry, influencing people to come to Derry, and Derry is his own private game preserve, so that he can eat.
It's his hunting grounds.
Yeah, it's his hunting grounds. Feast when he wants to. He haunts Derry.
Haunts. Yeah.
That's a huge part of it.
The haunt is either somewhere where a ghost haunts, but I think they also talk about the definition being where a feeding place.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that was cool.
And so that's at the start. That's fun. So one thing I thought was interesting is how we were talking earlier about it, how it comes into being, but at one point in the book there's a section where the narrative actually goes to the perspective of it, the perspective of Pennywise. And he's kind of talking about himself. And
this takes place after their confrontation as children.
Yeah.
And before they come back to
final.
town. Are they already in Derry, the grown-ups? Has he called them back?
At this point it keeps switching back and forth.
Okay.
So it's hard to say, especially I think we've both been listening to it audiobook wise, so it's a little harder to say just because the clear lines and breaks in the narrative aren't as clear when you're listening to it versus when you're reading it in a physical copy. But yeah, it's right after they kind of beat it the first time, but they don't completely kill it. It's before that final confrontation. And so it's talking about itself, saying that it existed, it's eternal, it's superior, it existed before everything, in the dimension known as the macroverse, which is also where the turtle exists.
Maturin.
Yeah, Maturin the turtle. So it sees itself as superior to everything, including the turtle, and more powerful, although
he can't fathom losing permanently to, lesser beings.
Yeah. Which the children in this are. But I don't know. I thought that was... Thinking of that, I thought that was interesting. I relate everything back to certain Stephen King books that I love, particularly
Dark
Talisman.
Oh, Talisman.
And the way it comes into being is very similar to the way one of the characters in the Talisman, Morgan Sloat, what is it? He flips from one dimension, one world to another. He kind of rapes his way through. And so if you think of it, what I thought of it as, and this kind of helps understand it, is if you hold up a piece of paper, you grab a pencil, and you poke a hole through that paper, and then keep the pencil halfway through the paper so that part of it is on one side, part of it is on the other. Part of its physical, some of its physical being exists in our world, and then part of its physical being exists in the macroverse.
Yeah.
Also, and that part of its physical being it refers to as the deadlights.
Yeah, I know on the confrontation when Bill goes through to, face off against him in the deadlights, the narrator of the audiobook kind of takes on this more commanding voice
for Bill.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting that, again, kind of goes back to what we talked to before about Bill, when he's powerful. He's no longer stuttering. He's, when he's in that macroverse facing off against Pennywise, he almost seems like he's an adult, the voice and everything.
Yeah.
And the way that he's talking to him even seems a lot more mature, which is, I guess, interesting that, he's a kid in one world and, this powerful, commanding force in another.
Yeah.
So.
No, so that's it. It's kind of fun. And we mentioned this in another one. The character likes to feast on children. And the reason is because children's fears are more concrete. Their fears usually can have a face put to it, rather than an adult's fears, which are a bit more ambiguous.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have concrete fears.
You're not afraid of the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
You know, I'm afraid of the running out of money. You know, I'm afraid
Monster.
of... Yeah. It's like there's not always a face to my fears.
Yeah.
So.
And so that was an interesting one. And he also, in that part where he becomes the narrator shifts to his perspective, he does say that children's fears kind of, instilling that fear and then bringing that out kind of salts the meat, gets them ready to devour, whether that's physically or more metaphysical.
What I really liked what he did in particular in the scene with Georgie is he doesn't come full on to scare him to season the meat. He makes him happy first. He talks about the circus, gets him talking about the popcorn, and gets him laughing, and he's a friendly clown, and then there's the sudden turn to evil right before. It kind of reminds me of I don't know if it's just slaughtering animals in general or hunting animals, but there's something about, like, if they get scared before they die, they release, like, adrenaline or something else that goes through the muscles and kind of can spoil the meat if they're too scared before they die. I don't know if you've ever heard anything about that.
No, I've never heard anything.
I don't know how true it is. It might just be kind of a old wives' tale type thing, but I think in particular, like, if you're slaughtering, like, an animal, like a sheep or something, that's why they have those, quick ways to kill them, because it's for humane reasons, but also because if they get too scared before they die, it supposedly ruins the meat.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
You've never heard that.
For
Anyways,
sure.
that's what it kind of made me think of.
Old wives' tale.
Yeah.
I could see that.
But another thing about Pennywise that's interesting is he refers to himself as Bob Gray, like Mr. Robert Gray,
Yeah, who also shows up in Dreamcatcher.
Yeah, and I always thought that was a weird connection, because the guys in Dreamcatcher are, like, straight up aliens,
But technically, he is too. Although, I mean, where he comes from is a little... Seems he does come from a different reality, which for Dark Tower fans, Pennywise comes from the Todash darkness, which is just kind of the void in between realities. If you have,
is that where you go in the jaunt when you're
Yes.
jaunting, the Todash?
Maybe that's probably exactly. Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah, never thought of that. Anyways.
And again, maybe taking that analogy earlier with the pieces of paper. If you have one piece of paper that's one reality, another piece of paper that's another reality, in between there's nothing, and that's kind of where Pennywise resides and is from. He is from the void in between realities, and that's what Todash darkness is. So he's one of the monsters there.
I like... in the movie versions, they always kind of rely a little more heavily on his clown persona, which is funny because in the book, he's very rarely the clown. It's kind of his go-to, kind of default setting, for his physical being. But at the same time, if you look at, like, the, page count for how often he's something else other than the clown, it's probably more time. But in the movies, he's the clown mostly.
Yeah, they focus a lot on that, and I don't know why, but let's see, at one point he's Frankenstein, he's a werewolf, he's the mummy, he's the leper, he's an eyeball. His true form is closest to a spider. Well, what we say is true form is we can't, the characters in there can't fathom, their minds just can't fathom his true form, and so what he appears to them as is the closest thing they can fathom, which is like an alien spider.
Which is also cool because thinking of the spider stuff, I always can't not think of the Crimson King.
Yeah.
with he's kind of the Spider King, and seeing the comic book adaptation pictures of him as the, with all the spider legs and stuff. It's a pretty there's some pretty cool imagery that you can kind of see something that could be a spider but also not a spider.
Yeah. Kind of like a lobstrosity.
Yeah.
Is or isn't a lobster.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's appeared as so many more things than they show in the movies.
Mm-hmm. And the
the
movie version, you've got Tim Curry in the original, which he's the best part of the original movie, miniseries, whatever you want to call it, and what is his name? Bill Skarsgård plays him in the new one, which I'm really excited to see Pennywise exist in. I think it's going to be 2016.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 2017. I don't want to do the math right now. I think it's 2016 though. But I want to see what they do with the fears with him, whether he's preying on his return, on Pennywise return in 2016, if he's going to be coming into if he has anything to do with like internet fear mongering, stuff like that. Who knows? I don't know
he's
where they're going to
appear
take
as
it.
Slender Man.
Yeah, it's like, does he appear in a kid's video game? Something like that or something. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the movie.
They could go a lot of different ways with that.
And I'm excited to see his present day stuff in the new movie.
I did have, and I thought this was interesting. I mentioned it not too long ago while I was thinking of it. And it hits on the character Pennywise, Bob Gray, but it also hits on his relationship to, the turtle. And I think I mentioned this, that I had a little theory that the reason the Losers Club is kind of brought together because it's Ka. They're brought together because of fate. It's not just happenstance that
they are a quartet.
They are a quartet. With Bill as their din. But they're called together, and I was thinking of it. I was like, well, it wouldn't be, happenstance, and it could be the turtle. Although at the end of the book, the turtle says, I can only do so much. I can't get involved in these matters. Or it could be the other mentioned there that's higher than the turtle. But either way, some entity is protecting the beams. In the Dark Tower universe, there's the beams that hold all of reality together, these kind of guy wires. And so I was thinking, well, so much crap happens. Why would... Salem's Lot, nobody, nothing brought them together. Ka didn't bring them together. It was just heroic characters that rose up and took care of the vampires themselves. There wasn't that sense of something greater bringing them together, but there is that sense in the book. And so I was thinking, its presence somehow erodes, just by doing what it does, somehow erodes the beams. Erodes the beam that the turtle guards. Its beam to the tower, its guy line. And so that's what I was thinking is it, either the turtle itself or Gan brings them together, brings this quartet together to banish, to destroy Pennywise, because if Pennywise continued to do what it is doing, causing this chaos, which, think of it as rust, it's causing this chaos, and by doing so, it's destroying the beams by existing. And so that's why they bring it together. So I kind of thought Pennywise was kind of a bigger character, when you think of it, a bigger antagonist in the Dark Tower universe than what you might first think.
Just his presence is just, he's kind of the bad apple spoiling, the whole mess, the whole bunch.
Yeah, and if he had continued to do that, I think he would have kept eroding the beam. Just destroying it little by little. I like that bad apple.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Inception a little bit, when the random characters in the dreams start to. I don't know how long ago you've seen that movie.
I remember.
But yeah, when the people start to notice the people who aren't supposed to be there invading in that person's dreams. They're like the subconscious.
Yeah.
Right? And they kind of, all just... It's almost like white blood cells, like the attacking a virus. Like, Pennywise is the virus in our world, and, the turtle or Gan or whoever is bringing in the white blood cells, the children, to fight it.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
No, it makes sense. But I don't know. I thought that was a cool theory that it would make Pennywise seem much more of a threat. Like, reading it with that in mind, he's much more of a threat to the universe than what you might at first see, realize. I mean, he's not just a threat to these kids and to Derry every 27 years. He's a threat to, like, the very existence.
And maybe that's part of his sleeping cycle. When he goes into his or her, I guess I should say.
Oh yeah, we've been referring to
at the end. There's the whole egg thing, where it's pregnant,
Yeah.
And they have to go smash all the eggs.
Yeah, and Audra, Bill's wife, I think she's the first to point it out that it's pregnant. It's a her.
Oh, there's a Stanley.
Oh, Stan.
Yeah. When they were kids, he says something about like there's some callback to him. Let's get her, or I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it is a woman, appearing as
a female.
A female who likes to be a man. Likes to be a male clown. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I wonder how that
the gender bending thing is a little weird. With the
it doesn't bother me. I'm just wondering. How would it have been if it was a female clown?
Female clown. Yeah.
Maybe Harley.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn. But that would have been interesting. But yeah, fun character, really good villain.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say top 10 Stephen King villains, if not the top 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably his most well-known, like, okay.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you got, like, Cujo. People will, Cujo, dog, Pennywise, clown.
You got the Man in Black from The Stand.
Mm-hmm.
Although, if you haven't read The Stand...
Yeah, I don't know. He's a good archetypal, and I would say that Pennywise is probably responsible for more fear of clowns than any other... movie or story that's been about scary clowns. I think he's influenced the category of scary clowns more than any other clown.
Yeah.
So.
No, I would say so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But great character.
Yeah. We'll talk about him a little bit more, later. But I think that pretty much covers what we want to talk about right now.
Yeah, but like we always say, if you want to get some more content, follow us on Instagram. Check out our other little podcast. Hopefully, when we grow up, we'll get a real podcast that won't be on YouTube. But for those of you who are sticking with us, check out what else we have.
Yeah.
And remember, there are other worlds than these.